Welcome back to the Bourbon Retriever. My name is Chris, and we are reacting to some breaking news from Wild Turkey. At least it's breaking news to me. Last week, Mash and Drum did an interview with Bruce Russell from Wild Turkey. Now, a lot of times when they do these interviews with people from distilleries, they can be a little mundane, not much is really discussed. But this one was different. They talked about some releases coming out this year and the future of products from Wild Turkey. They cleared up some of the rumors around the Russell's 10 LLME. Talked about the origins of Buff Turkey. What else? Wild Turkey 70th. There's a ton of great information. I'm trying to condense it as much as I can into this video. It is a 2 hour long interview, so I wasn't able to get everything in here. And I highly recommend you guys to go out and check it out. I'm going to put a link to the full video in the description below. There's tons of just great conversation. When Bruce gets talking, you see a lot of Jimmy in him. He's just a great conversationalist. They talked about his relationship with his dad, his granddad. They talked about some stories of Jimmy with his friends, Booker, and them. So definitely go and check out the full length video. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
The Jimmy's 70th anniversary bottle, really special bottle. Did Jimmy kind of put his stamp on that?
He put his stamp. I saw somebody say, and I'll tell some things about another company too, because there's two things that Jimmy's been involved in recently. Man, he wasn't involved with the 70th. That was part of it. It was a surprise to him. He didn't even know the 70th was coming out because he doesn't use the internet. So all you nerds, and I'm included in that, throw to TTB and watch stuff like Come and Whiskey.
Yeah, that's right.
He does not know the internet exists. He does not have the internet. He never had.
Okay.
Nor will he ever. And so our company people, like 2 or 3 days, maybe a week before, talked to Jimmy about it because they were so scared somebody was going to tell him. And Jimmy didn't know until that time. And I actually had him trying liquid. And he didn't know. I was just like, what do you think about this? I got this from a barrel of, and he'd give me, his opinions. And that's kind of how I worked on it was I would give him these tastes in secret. And all I was doing was seeing if he liked it or not. And so what we did is we tried to take stuff from his favorite rick houses that was more towards his profile. And Jimmy's profile is big. It's in your face. If you try the Jimmy 70th next to the export 8-year-old, the 70th tastes like just one-on-one on steroids.
That's cool little insight there. I didn't realize Jimmy didn't work on the 70th. I thought, he was part of it to, commemorate him and to get it close to his taste profile. But that is cool that it was a tribute to him. It kind of makes sense. He's getting up there in age. He can't really probably work on many of the releases. But that was a cool tribute to him. And I like how in the background, he was able to get him involved a little bit on it. But Jimmy's always talking to visitors at the visitor centers and getting autographs. So I'm surprised none of the visitors ever brought it up to him. But that's a cool little nitpick there.
We're the 8-year-old 101 export, which is coming to the United States starting this year.
Oh yeah, we somebody had
say next year, but it's this year.
Somebody had a question in the chat about that one, about that coming out again. Is that going to be the standard 101 or
no,
we just
no.
Okay.
101, classic 101 is normal 101, no age statement. That's our bread and butter. So we're not getting rid of that. But the 8-year-old export product is coming to the United States. I will go ahead and tell that, if you like the price point in the 70th, you're going to really like the price point of the new 8-year-old.
So that's interesting to hear that it's not replacing the 101. That was my guess earlier on, that it was just they're gonna add age limit to the 101, but it sounds like it's gonna be 2 different releases. They probably can get a little more money out of that 8-year by putting the step on it, so that kind of makes sense. It'll be interesting to try them side by side because I don't think the normal batch is that much younger. So it'll be interesting to see how much different they are. And it's nice to hear the price point is going to be close to that 70th. Campari lately has been putting crazy prices on their bottles, so it's nice to hear that they're doing some releases out there that the average person can afford.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. That's cool.
We want to get back to bringing an age-stated, really affordable product. I see somebody asking about the 12 too, and I saw a lot of people, so I'm just going to answer. That's not coming to the States anytime soon. The problem
no purple velvet box for us.
No box. The problem with the 12 is we just don't have that much now that we're doing Russell's 13.
Got it.
Russell's 13, especially now that we're going to be putting variable proofs and be putting, I don't know if everybody saw the TT. They told me I could talk about stuff that's already TTP approved.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you've seen, but we're actually going to start. You don't have to guess anymore. You don't have to be like me and look on Rare Bird's thing to figure out the lot codes, all that stuff. So now it's just going to say, spring 2024 or whatever. That's where most of our older stuff's going in the States. So you all get Russell's 13. That's really hard to find overseas.
Yeah.
You have to be a very high net worth individual with connections. Hey, anybody didn't know, you come to Kentucky, you can find the 12-year-old.
Yeah, people ask me all the time. I'm like, you could find the 12-year around Kentucky. Just look around.
Yeah, that is kind of disappointing to hear about the 12-year. That is probably one of my favorite products they put out for the price point. It is true. In Kentucky, you can find it. It really hasn't that much of a markup, like around 120. And for that price, it is phenomenal. I think between the two, I still prefer the Russell's 13. So I'm glad we still get to keep that in the States. And you can find the 12 if you really were looking for it. I just hope the 13, the price, they keep it down. Don't raise it drastically as Campari has done in the past. So I am also excited that they are doing better marking on the bottles. So instead of having to chase laser code, now you can just see on the front, spring, fall. I'm also excited to see the various proof points. I think that's going to be a nice addition to that line.
Was the 15-year kind of a one-off? Or it's just kind of too early? Just kind of too early. Just kind of too early to tell.
Let me tell you, we love the 15. So if we find enough good liquid, we'll do the 15 again. That is not. It's not like a closed door. The 13 will be an annual product, maybe even more than once some years. But the 15 is going to be when we have really special liquid. Because to me, if you look at Dad's like Russell's vintages, I think is what people call them online.
Yep.
With the 98, 2000, 2002, 2003, those three that we want to do something like that. When the liquid's good, it's not going to be an every year thing.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
But don't be surprised if you see 15 again.
That is nice to hear that there's a chance to be more 15s. I was worried that it was going to be kind of a one-off release. So I was able to bunker a couple here. But I am excited. If there's something they can release in the future over and over again, that is going to be amazing. It is also nice to hear that 13 is going to be annual, if not maybe multiple batches a year. If we can get batches like the Elijah Craig barrel proofs, you get 3 a year, or the Stabs where you get a couple a year, I think that's going to be awesome because the 13 is just a great pour. And if they keep releasing those, that's definitely a big bottle that I am hunting, especially more than the single rick houses or other bottles they put out.
Couple more questions here. This is actually one I've always wanted. Why is Rare Breed non-chill filtered internationally and not here? Is there a reason for that?
International. It's not international.
Okay.
It's duty free.
I'm sorry. Duty free. Yeah.
And so I'll tell you the same thing as I've told everybody about this.
Yep.
If you want to play in the duty free game, and the duty free game is a big part of the industry.
Yep.
You do usually have to give them something proprietary. And non-chill filtered Rare Breed was an easy thing for us to do. That contract is up. And so our plan is eventually to introduce Rare Breed globally as a non-chill filtered product. I'm not going to give anybody dates on that, but that is going to be a thing.
Now, this might be the biggest news, at least to me, coming out of this interview, because the Rare Breed non-chill filtered is, I think, some of the best products that come out of there. The fact that this might now be in the United States, if it does come out, I'm going to buy it by the case, especially if the price point on it is anywhere close to what the normal Rare Breed is. But I loved how they pulled the curtains back there on the duty free. I didn't realize that to play in that game, you had to give proprietary one-off kind of releases to them. It kind of makes sense. They have limited shelf space there at the airport. So to get those shelf space, you have to give something unique, something that they can't get anywhere else. But now that the Rare Breed non-chill filter is coming out of that, it's interesting to see what they put in to replace it. That's definitely be something to check out going forward.
What was really in the LLME Russell's 10-year?
So I'm not gonna lie. Somebody texted me even before this and said, "Be prepared for the LLME question."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've already seen that question about 100 times in the chat. So
I will give a very vague answer.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I'm not allowed to tell, but
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna let people do. It's gonna make people go crazy. I will say, most of the time there was and I don't know if you remember. I know, David will remember. There was this rumor about Rare Breed having older liquid in it. People went crazy for this
Yeah,
one.
it was right around the same time that
And
it was rumored there was an older whiskey in 101 as well.
and so
Yeah.
there's small truths to that. The rumors surrounding LLME, I will say, if you've had a chance to get LLME Russell's 10, it is a unique blend that happened for very unusual circumstances at our distillery. And if you've got a bottle, it's a special bottle.
All right, so Bruce confirmed that there is something unique about this Russell's LLME. It sounds like it's not because it was reject barrels in Russell's 15, but there was something going on at the distillery where they were able to get access to either older barrels or unique barrels. I don't know exactly what it is. I do have a Russell's LMEE, and I can tell you it is a great pour. I was hoping he'd give us a little more information there, but the fact that he did hint at that there is something special about it is cool. But maybe one day, hopefully, we can get a little more secrets behind the curtain about what went on there.
Have we talked about Beacon yet? You said you could talk about TTB stuff.
That was actually going to be one of my next questions, because we did see Masters Keep Beacon on the TTB. Is there anything you could tell us about that, Bruce? That's the 2025 Masters Keep release.
Yeah, I will. Right before I'm going to answer Whiskey Uncensored here, Russell's 10's not going to taste like the LLME going forward. It was a very special blend. But Beacon. Beacon is going to be one of these like kind of cornerstone moments in my career. And it's really special to me. So Beacon is going to be the last, and we publicly said this, me and Dad and the company. It's going to be the last of the Masters Keep series for now. And I'm really excited that for the last Masters Keep, it's going to have my name on it and Dad's name on it. We're going to be working in tandem.
Wow.
Not only working behind the scenes like we have on like 15 and stuff like that, but working on something where I get to be put at the forefront, and we're kind of partners in it. The thing that really is special to me, it's going to have like part of the component will be some younger whiskey, actually, that is the only whiskey that I will probably in my whole career ever make from scratch. So
wow.
It's one of these things that, there are a lot of master distillers in the world, but man, there's nobody making whiskey like Jimmy anymore unless you're a little small place. What I mean by that is Jimmy used to do everything from the grain intake to looking over the fermentations to looking over the distillation to doing the yeast by himself and wouldn't let anybody touch the yeast to making sure the barrels got filled up right. That's what he did. And in January of 2014, I believe, I made whiskey like that with Jimmy. And I did everything from check the quality of the grain to ran the cooks on the computer screens to watch over the fermentation, ran the stills on the computers. Jimmy made me do the yeast process by hand. We don't do the yeast process like Jimmy does anymore. And we did it the old school way for a whole week's run. And it'll be the only time in my career I ever do that, because that's not how we make whiskey. Whiskey, it's automated. We don't do things in that kind of slow style that Jimmy did. And I got to make whiskey really by hand at the distillery, and that's going to be blended into Beacon. So
wow,
to me, it's extremely special. And so that's going to be blended with some Camp Nelson liquid that Dad is in love with, that's right around 16 years old, that's got that kind of Russell's 13, Russell's 15, that strong, big, bold Camp Nelson flavor. And man, it's really special for me. And then going forward after Masters Keep, I'm going to get the chance. Dad has decided my time has come, and I'm going to get the chance to kind of take over the limited edition series. It'll probably be my series solely for a little while after that. You'll learn more when the time comes and we can talk about it. But Beacon is something that's going to mean a lot to me.
That's amazing, man.
All right, so we confirmed that Beacon is the last Masters Keep for now. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means a couple of years, or if they just don't want to definitely say they're never doing it again, kind of like what Maker's Mark did with their finishing series. They said the license plate was over, and then literally brought it back like a year later. But the story on this actually makes me want to get it more. I haven't really bought the last couple Maker Keeps because the price on them has been really high and doesn't really seem like the value's there. But the story of this being kind of the only whiskey he's ever made from like grain to bottle, I think is really cool. Making it alongside of Jimmy the way they used to make it back at Wild Turkey. So this is definitely a bottle now that I am much more excited to try and get, taste, and just to see how it is. I'm also excited to hear that Bruce is now taking over the limited series, whatever it is going forward, because he normally likes higher aged products. He likes higher proof products. So in bold flavors. So I think that's going to be a great sign for future Russell's releases. All the different Russells, Bruce, Jimmy, Eddie, they all had different takes on what was good Wild Turkey juice, and I'm really excited for the vision that Bruce has going forward.
Quick, Tim Evans says, "Will Kentucky Spirit be Bill? Will Kentucky still be around with the release of private selections for 101?"
Kentucky Spirit will not, unless you do not live in the United States. So right now, the bourbon for the United States on the private barrel side is going to be Russell's. The rye is going to be, sorry, my big old dog's back behind me. The rye is going to be the 101 stuff. And then Kentucky Spirit will only be available as a private pick in the United States at the Visitor Center. And so,
yeah, that's what I was told when I was there by the gift shop.
And I will also drop some hint, which they might be mad at me if I do. But hey, come to the Visitor Center this year. There's going to be some cool stuff. And then for Kentucky Spirit, we're actually doing that overseas because many of our biggest markets overseas, they are taxed on proof. And so Spirit just makes more sense than 110 proof.
All right, that is breaking news to me. I didn't know about the Kentucky Spirits going away. So if that is something you enjoy, definitely get them while you can. I know they're on the shelves here locally for me, but it's interesting to hear that's going to be distillery only going forward or international. That makes sense for international. Like you said, they get proofed, they get taxed on the proof of the whiskey. So send the lower proof whiskey abroad, and we'll only be getting Russell picks going forward. I'm actually okay with that. I enjoy the Russells much more than the Kentucky Spirits, but for you out there who enjoy those, definitely go get them while you can.
David, I have a question that you'll probably be interested in. So David and I have talked about this. One of our favorite releases ever, we know your dad had a hand in this, was Master's Keep Revival with that Oloroso sherry finish. Have you guys experimented with other finishes? I know you guys have done a Burai. You've actually finished stuff in rye casks, which was interesting. Mm-hmm. You've done the sherry finish. You did the rum finish. Are there any other? You don't have to say obviously which finishes, but I know being kind of having your experimental hat on. Is there other different experimental finishes that you're interested in?
Yeah, of course. It's one of those things that I don't know if the people watching realize, because a lot of times they'll see these small distilleries do these really cool finishes. I mean, David's worked on finishes. And there's nothing that's out there that we haven't looked at. And that's not just us. I could guarantee you that Bean, Buffalo, Four Roses, Heaven Hill, Brown Foreman, everybody, all the big guys.
Yep.
Except Prime Makers, because they are in their lane, right?
They are in their lane.
All the other big guys, we've definitely experimented on everything. There's not a wood out there that we haven't at least asked Independent Stave Company, what do y'all think about using this? Or can I try some stuff that's been made out of this? Because that's the thing. The whiskey industry is so tight that if I see somebody, if I wanted to try David's stuff, I'll just ask him. Or if I want to try something that I know somebody's experimenting on, I can just ask them or ISC, and I can usually get a taste of it. We're always working on stuff. And I'm excited to see where finishing goes in the future, because I think the thing that stands out with the best of, like when you talk about revival, to me, the best finishes are enhancements to the underlying really good whiskey.
Yep.
I think people have started to figure that out. I think for a minute, some people that were experimenting, it was almost like the flavor completely masked the underlying bourbon. And for me, people have started to realize that it should be used in an enhancement, not as something to mask or hide the whiskey. If you were to look at the way we age our whiskey in secondary barrels, compared to most other people, it's not in there very long at all. We're talking, when you talk to a lot of people, it's months or it's been in there for years. We talk in weeks or days. We do not like to have whiskey inside of a secondary barrel for, I think the most we've ever done might have been like 6 or 7 weeks. So we're very careful.
Yep.
Because we understand for wild turkey consumers, every brand is different, right? Somebody that has maturation, secondary maturation is a key component of the brand. This would be very different. But for us, we know that turkey fans, they want turkey or they want Russells.
Yep.
And that always has to be the base or foundation of what we're working on. It needs caramel, oak, clove, vanilla, right? It needs those notes. It just can have stuff that maybe adds on to it.
Bruce's take is music to my ears. I am not a big fan of finished whiskey lately. I feel like people are just masking the taste of whiskey, as Bruce said. They're finishing it way too long and just hiding all those bourbon notes. So it's a blessing to hear his take on it, that it really should be just used to enhance the flavor, kind of balance it out a little bit. Maybe there's a barrel that's missing a little something and you want to add a little bit to it. And also the short amount of time that he's finishing, I think is exactly what you should be doing with finishing. So that has me excited for the future of Russell's as it comes to finishing product from a person who just traditionally doesn't like finished products.
If you can talk about the new distillery a little bit for anybody that hasn't heard about it, please do.
Yeah, so we're building a brand new distillery. It is not going to replace the current distillery. It is going to be in addition to. It's going to be about a half size version of our current distillery, so it'll be able to do about 5 million proof gallons a year. David probably knows as well as I do. There's a thing called normal time, and then there's bourbon country time. So
I've heard about that time frame.
Yeah,
mainly from you, Bruce.
Yeah, things happen, slow, kind of like how I talk, slow. And I think we're looking now probably close to 2027-ish is the most recent thing I heard.
Yeah.
We do not have the first year's distilling budget ready. But let me tell you, David, I've already been asking and pleading different recipes, like 65% rise and maybe.
David. I don't know if you heard about that earlier. We were discussing some of the old mash bill.
He knows.
Yeah,
we talked about it before.
I know he knows about it. I'm just saying.
Maybe entry proofs or distillation proofs. It just gives us the opportunity for the first time in the history of wild turkey. Gives us the opportunity to do experimental stuff and not screw with the main distillery operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try some things.
So that's really exciting to hear about this new distillery, that they're going to be mixing it up a little bit. Like if you know wild turkey, they really only have one mash bill for bourbon, one mash bill rye. So they can do some more experimental things, maybe bring back some of the older, lower entry proofs that they were hinting at. I think that is fantastic. It does sound like it's going to take a little bit. Now it's not even come online until 2027. It typically takes like 7 years for that bourbon to age before we're going to be able to drink it. So we're looking at 2033 before we get to try any of this stuff. So it's going to be a little bit of while, but I am excited for the future of that because these are products that I am absolutely dying to try.
Exciting time for not only for you, but for wild turkey in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a better time in history than the next 5 or 10 years. If from what I know is coming,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a wild turkey fan, and hopefully it keeps rolling forever. But we've just got so many cool things coming that if you're a wild turkey fan and you like what's been happening, it's just going to keep getting better.
All right, that is exciting because I have enjoyed the Russell 15, the Russell 13, these new products that they are releasing. So especially, like I said earlier, Bruce is a fan of those higher age, higher proof products. Traditionally, they haven't released higher age state products or higher proof products. So while they didn't get into any specifics, I'm excited to see what Bruce brings to us going forward.
What's the most exciting warehouse that's aging barrels right now, so we can look for those picks?
Because I hate to tell old Tom that the most exciting warehouse barrels, I don't let those get through the picks, brother. I'm keeping those for me.
Yeah, those are making it into the next limited edition releases now that Bruce is now assistant to the master blender of associates.
Damn right, you better believe it. But as far as the barrel picks, hey, let me tell you, it's wrapping around to the old school. So if you're an old turkey head and you were in those picks early, you might remember some warehouse G, some warehouse B, warehouse D, K. man, there's a lot of good Tyrone whiskey in these barrel picks this year. I just tried a bunch of them this week, and man, I had a warehouse B barrel. It really reminded me of some stuff that was picked, 2015, 16, 17, those old Tyrone barrels. And
yes,
that's right for private picks. Like obviously Camp Nelson's got a lot of good liquid. Most Camp Nelson really good liquid. A lot of it's older.
Yeah.
And so with these picks that are coming in 8, 9, 10 years old, I think you should be looking this year. The best whiskey is going to be coming from Tyrone.
That is an interesting insight because historically, when you look at picks, everyone's been chasing the Camp Nelson picks, but it sounds like this year maybe if you're going to hunt for picks, try and get the Tyrone picks, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it just with the barrel aging process. A lot of Camp Nelson barrels have come out, so they might not have as many good picks going forward. Whereas the Tyrone, he's talking about, they had good picks back in the day. Those barrels, they replaced them. They're finally getting back to age, and those barrels are coming out to market. So definitely excited for that. I'm going to be hunting for Tyrone now, especially from those warehouses that he was talking about.
See that happening. Oh, by the way, Dave, I don't know if you missed my request before to bring back a modern version of this. What do you think? Right?
Well, I mean, I think that Russell's 15 pretty much checked that box.
That's what I said. That's what I told Bruce. I'm like, that was kind of the DNA to like bring back a little bit of that little bit of a dusty type of experience to a drink.
Hey, Jason,
yeah.
If you like 15,
yeah,
just wait till next year. That's all I'll say. There will be a day, Jason, when you see something and you'll be like, damn.
Oh, I was
I can't believe you did that.
That's what Bruce was talking about. Okay.
Yeah, you'll know as soon as
Wait, when you say next year, you mean 25 or 26?
26. It's 25 now.
All right, dropping a major hint bomb there. Obviously, he's not talking about what it is. He did mention the Master Keep is dropping off. They're doing a new limited series going forward. It sounds like this might be what it is. So I'm excited for it because I love Russell's 15. It was one of the best ways that came out this year. So if this can be anything close to it, that is magnificent. And I haven't been the biggest fan of Master Keep. So if they can drop that and then add in something that's closer to Russell's 15, I'm all in. Sign me up.
As far as the higher end bourbons are concerned, for a long time, it's been coming from Camp Nelson. That's where the good stuff's at. And so it just made so much sense to us to highlight this really special location, especially with the very first one being a Camp Nelson warehouse that no longer exists. And I think by the end of it, we'll probably do all 6 warehouses that were out there. And the thing that's so cool is every one of them has been so unique from the other, and we've got a few more we're working on. And if you're a fan of one, I've seen a lot of people. I like A, I like B, I like E, I like F. Well, we're probably going to get to all of them, hopefully, eventually, because that's what we want.
So that's interesting to hear about the Russell's single ricks. It makes sense. Get through all the rick houses, make it a collectible vertical that people want to collect, get one from each of the rick houses. I personally haven't gotten them because I think they're a little too expensive for what they are. I'd much rather buy the Russell's 13 or 15. I think those are better. But for those out there who are hunting certain rick houses, like I know certain people are just fans of certain specific rick houses, they buy as many Russell single barrels as they can. Be on the lookout in the future here. Sounds like they're going to get through all the rick houses out there. So keep an eye out for your favorite rick house in the future.
Will we see Russell's picks maybe at cast strength? If not, what's the mindset behind not wanting to offer that? It's a good question.
I'm going to be straight up honest with Devin. There's a lot of paperwork when it comes to barrel proof stuff. Every 10th of a proof point is another TTB paperwork. I don't have to fill out the paperwork, so it don't matter to me or you, Devin.
Yeah.
But there's somebody that has to do that. I will say that it's in the works, but it's been in the works that I know of for sure since, Lord, around the pandemic. And I've heard Dad say stuff even before that.
Yeah. So
I do think that it is coming sooner than later now with our private barrel line, like our single barrel line that we've got, and we have the ability to do variable proofs now. We're going to prove that with the 13. But I still think we're at least a couple years away from that.
Yep.
But our goal, and shouts out to Grant Wheeler. I don't know if y'all know who Grant is. He used to run the Knob Creek program over at Beam for the private barrels. He works with us now and does the back end. He does the hard work on the private barrels. I get to show up and be the hero. So Grant does the actual work, and
Yeah.
and me and Grant are both fighting tooth and nail with the company. It's just a good idea for us to go barrel proof. So if you want barrel proof, Devin and group, keep being loud about it, because that does help us. It shows the company that there is people that are passionate about getting that out there, and it'll just help us speed it up.
Yeah, that is really exciting to hear. I would love to get Russell's picks at Barrel Proof. So definitely call your congressman. Actually, I don't think calling congressman is what you need to do, but let the people at Russell's know that is what you want. It makes sense that maybe the person from Knob Creek's helping them, because just recently on the TTB labels, you saw that Knob Creek is going to cast strength picks, usually just with the 120 proof, but now they're doing variable up and down. Now, I don't know how much higher these barrel picks will actually get. They probably, I don't think they water them down that much, but who knows? Maybe we'll get some really crazy proof picks out in the future with this if there's something they can do. But I would understand it, and I would start buying more Russell's picks if they had the very proof point. It also just makes the picking experience a lot easier. I've been a couple of these picks, and you have to like water them down to the proof point that it's going to be bottled at, and it's kind of guesswork exactly how's it going to taste. You add water instantly, and when you add the water at that moment, it's not going to taste like how it is when the water hasn't molded with it for a long period of time. So I think you're going to get a much better, closer picks to your palate and for the store's palate by just being able to pick it at barrel proof.
Have you heard of this buffalo turkey stuff that's been going around?
Yeah, and I'll answer. I actually answered this relatively recently on Reddit, on our bourbon.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Like, hey, there's a lot of people talking. Maybe I'd ability reach out like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Maybe you can just answer. So I'll answer, because I don't think even our company understands what it is.
Okay.
I'd like to set the record straight so people I don't want anybody to be misled, is the thing that I don't want.
Yeah, I've heard about 100 different stories of actually what it is, but I would love to hear it from you. So I think this will be great for just everyone watching to hear. This will be great. So,
of course. So there was a time in our history where we were, for one reason or another, worried about our ability to continue to make liquid.
mm-hmm.
If you do the math, that's around the time we brought the new distillery online and all that stuff is going on. So that seems reasonable to me.
Mm-hmm.
We partnered up with Buffalo Trace to maybe make some whiskey for us. Now, that whiskey is not Wild Turkey whiskey, really, in any shape or form. It was made at BT. We did age that whiskey. So if you look at those barrels, they will have a stamp that says Wild Turkey, but they also have a stamp that says Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't make it. So it's not Wild Turkey. It is a lot of it 14, 15, 16 years old. I've had quite a bit of it.
Yep.
I think it's awesome. It tastes like 15-year-old Buffalo Trace.
It does. It's really sweet. And everything one that I've had, I'm like, this doesn't really taste like Wild Turkey to me.
It's not us. And so somebody called it Buff Turkey. It is a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was made, I'm positive, actually. I'm not going to act like I don't know. It was made using 75-13-12.
Yeah.
But they use their processes. They use their everything, their yeast. They don't have proprietary yeast like us, so they didn't do that. And so it's not Wild Turkey. It is a weird, cool thing, though. And
it is, right?
It's liquid, and some of them I've really enjoyed. So if you go in knowing what it is, that it's not Wild Turkey, it's this weird Frankenstein Buffalo Trace product,
mm-hmm.
and it's really cool. But unfortunately, because this always happens, I've seen a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this is Russell 15 juice," or "Oh, this is 15-year-old turkey," and I'm not just, I've said a lot of things. I'll tell the truth. It's not Wild Turkey. It's not the same stuff. We've not ever used that in any of our products. And it's not even that we thought it was bad. It was just so different than what we do. We didn't want to use it.
I am so glad that Bruce finally cleared that up. Like you said, I think transparency is key. If people are going to pay the $300 that these bottles cost, it is best if people understand where it came from, what the history is, and aren't buying into it because they believe it is something else. I'm glad he finally talked about it. So we confirmed it is Buffalo Trace's yeast. I've heard people talk about it was maybe turkey yeast or Buffalo Trace, but it is Buffalo Trace yeast. And it's really cool. So it's distilled Buffalo Trace, aged at Wild Turkey, but used Wild Turkey's mash bill. Definitely, if you can find one of these, go track them down. They are great whiskey. It's just the issue is the price point, right? You have to go in knowing that, but definitely be patient because there are a lot of these on the market. I've heard rumors anywhere that there's like 500 barrels of these out there. So it's not something that you need to rush and get because it's going to disappear. I think these will be coming out in the next year or so, especially if people are less inclined to pay $300 for bourbon as kind of the bourbon boom kind of subsides down a little bit. But these are definitely a couple bottles that I'm personally going to want to grab just because it's a part of history. I don't know of two major distilleries kind of having this type of overlap before. And I love Wild Turkey Juice. I love Buffalo Trace stuff. So I think this is just a cool bottle to have in your collection and tell a story about.
I'm not getting Unity because I don't have my bottle of that. Dad's got that.
Okay.
I'm saying, I hope this.
Oh, Jimmy's batch.
This is Jimmy's batch Booker's.
Yeah.
And I've already opened up 2 bottles of this. This is my 3rd bottle. I'm hoping this leads to both Beam and our company maybe being a little bit open for us to do some.
That yeah, I don't know if you heard me while you stepped away.
Yeah.
But that's what I said. I was like, because you two, the families are so close, it would be really interesting for you guys. Your mash bills are pretty much the same. It'd be kind of cool to see you guys do a collab. I mean, obviously, I know yeast strains and maturation, all that stuff is different. But for the two families, for Beam and Turkey to come together and do something on a collab, I think would be really, really cool.
It's one of those things. They reached out to us. I mean, Fred just straight up, I think, texted or called Dad, which he does on occasion, and was like, "We're thinking about doing this thing for your daddy. Why don't you tell Campari and see what they think?" Because normally when you're doing stuff like that, it's really hot. People make those decisions. Well, or they just call each other.
Yeah.
And then it eventually came out to be, it's my favorite normal Booker's release of last year, of the 1, 2, 3, 4. It does. I mean, it's got a little bit of Jimmy or Booker in it, right? It's unabashedly kind of in your face, and I love that, big and sweet and bold. And as somebody that grew up kind of around that family and knows how much that Booker and Fred mean to my granddad, it meant the world to me. And when I took Jimmy his bottle, because I got some bottles for some folks, I took Jimmy one. Jimmy broke down. I mean, it really got to him because Jimmy's whole life has been in this industry. His friends, his family, his whole life is in this. And I don't think that he had a more kindred spirit than Booker. A lot of times people say, "Oh, they were close or they were friends," and we're still close with that family. When we had the generations dinner, Fred sat at the family table. The only other people besides Fred at our table were my grandmother, mom, dad, me, my fiance, and Fred. That's what we think about them. But even compared to like Dad and Fred or me and Freddie, Booker and Jimmy, they were best friends. I mean, they were tight. And I'm hoping this allows me and Freddie to eventually do some stuff together, because we're really the last two of the people like that kind of stayed in it. Elmer didn't have kids that got in it, and they've got different people, making whiskey now at some of these other distilleries, and I just think it'd be really cool for me and him to do something together, because we're whether we want to be or not, we've grown up in the industry together. We're peers in a way that really no other people will be, and I really respect and really enjoy a lot of what he's doing, man.
I really hope that Beam and Turkey can get together, get past the corporate overlords, and put together a whiskey that celebrates just the family ties between those two brands, especially if they can do it while Jimmy is still alive. I think that would just mean a lot to him in the history he's been through. Today, you can kind of get something like this. Bardstown Bourbon Company is putting out blends of Wild Turkey and Beam products in their Discovery Series. So if you really want to taste what those products could taste like, go and get those Discovery Series. And spoiler alert, they have been fantastic. So I would love to see an actual collaboration between the head distillers at Turkey and Beam, just to see what they can put together and celebrate the history of those two families. So that's my reaction video to the interview that Mash and Drum did with Bruce Russell. This is my first time doing a reaction video, so please leave comments below about how I can do this better in the future. Always want to try and put better and of content out there for you guys going forward. And if you're enjoying this content, before you head out, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any content going forward. Cheers.